All right, let's talk about Frantz Fanon. He's easily one of the most powerful anti-colonial thinkers of the 20th century. I mean, his work has been a rallying cry for liberation movements all over the globe. But what if the story we all know about where his revolutionary ideas came from has it completely backward?
So let's just dive right in with the big question that's going to frame this whole explainer. We usually think of Fanon as this brilliant theorist of decolonization, right? The guy who wrote the playbook for movements like the Algerian Revolution. But what if that's not how it happened at all? What if the revolution wasn't just something he studied, but the very thing that made him?
To really get this, we have to go back. We need to meet the man before the revolution. And this isn't the fiery revolutionary we picture. No, this is a brilliant psychiatrist from the French colony of Martinique, an intellectual who was, deeply caught between two very different worlds.
Fanon's early life was just a bundle of contradictions. Think about it, he was born in Martinique, the grandson of enslaved Africans, but his family was part of this local middle class that really wanted to be seen as fully French. So in school, he wasn't learning about Caribbean heroes, he was studying people like Joan of Arc. This whole upbringing created this deep-seated belief that the assimilated Martinican was somehow culturally superior to the African, a hierarchy that was, of course, created and pushed by the colonial system itself.
Well, as you can imagine, this created a massive internal conflict for him. His dream was to be this universal man, a French humanist. But the reality? Society was constantly reminding him, defining him, by the color of his skin. He was trying to find solutions using the very European way of thinking that was upholding the racism he was experiencing every day. He poured all of this psychological torment into his first incredible book, Black Skin, White Mask.
And this quote, wow, it just captures his mindset at the time perfectly. I am French. What do I care about a black empire? He wasn't calling for black nationalism, not at all. His identity, his whole loyalty, was tied to this French humanist ideal. He really saw himself as part of that French project. And it is so important to understand this starting point, because it shows just how seismic his transformation was about to be.
But then, everything changed. He took a professional job in Algeria as a psychiatrist, and that move became the catalyst that didn't just challenge his worldview, it absolutely shattered it. And things happened fast. In '53, he shows up in Algeria to run a hospital. Just 1 year later, the war for independence explodes. So for 2 years, he's in this impossible position, treating the psychological trauma of both the French soldiers and the colonized Algerians he was seeing. By 1956, he realized he couldn't stand on the sidelines. It was impossible. He quit his post with the French government and officially joined the Algerian Liberation Movement, the FLN. His work in the hospital became his political awakening. He started to realize that the trauma, the anxiety, all the things his Algerian patients were suffering from, they weren't just individual medical problems. They were symptoms of a sick, violent, and oppressive system. He saw that colonialism wasn't just a political issue. It was a full-blown public health crisis. So this experience completely transformed him. It took Fanon from being a doctor who diagnosed individual pain to a revolutionary who prescribed collective freedom. It didn't just change his opinions, it fundamentally remade who he was. And you can see this incredible shift. I mean, it's crystal clear when you just put his two most famous books side by side. Black Skin, White Masks, written before Algeria, is all about the psychological pain of the individual. The solution he offers is a kind of universal human respect. But then you get The Wretched of the Earth, written from inside the revolution, and the focus completely changes to national liberation. The problem now isn't just pain. It's the political structure of colonialism, and the only solution he sees is a collective revolutionary struggle. And he didn't just write about it from afar. He jumped in with both feet. He became a writer and an editor for the FLN's underground newspaper. He became a diplomat, traveling across Africa for the provisional Algerian government, building ties with other anti-colonial movements. He was no longer an observer. His intellect was now a weapon in the fight. Just as his biographer Mohamed Mili says, the Algerian Revolution was his real teacher. It was being there, living through the struggle, that gave him the insights that would make his work connect with oppressed people, not just in Algeria, but all around the world. Which brings us right back to our main question. The story we usually hear is that Fanon, the great intellectual, influenced the revolution. But when you dig a little deeper, it seems like that might get the whole dynamic completely wrong. So why does this misconception stick around? Well, maybe it's just a more comfortable story, especially from a Western perspective. It's a story that centers a French-educated intellectual as the one shaping a third world movement, instead of admitting that the movement, which had its own long history, totally reshaped the intellectual. It kind of puts the origin of the ideas in Europe, not in the heart of the anti-colonial fight itself. But in the end, the source material argues that the Algerian Revolution was the forge. It took that brilliant, conflicted intellectual from Martinique and hammered him into a revolutionary thinker. He didn't give the revolution its ideas. The revolution gave him his. He became its student, and then its most powerful and articulate voice on the world stage. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? Fanon's life is just this dramatic example of how powerful lived experiences is in forging what we believe. It really makes you ask, how much are any of us the true authors of our own ideas, and how much are we all just a product of the struggles and the times that shape us?